I was given equal work as my peers. I was evaluated equally. Nobody expected me, being a female, to be able to work, less hours.
Definitely, the more diverse the C-suite is, decision making is going to be better informed.
Overall, diversity and inclusion has a very positive impact on the culture that you're trying to drive and the kind of employee experience that you're building.
To have that sounding board, to have that one or many trustworthy, unbiased, honest mentors who can help you become even better. Hi everyone, I'm Gyanendra Pati from Acuity Knowledge Partners. I lead marketing and communications for Acuity globally. I'm very happy to welcome all listeners to this podcast, Women in Finance, Rewriting the Rules. Let's get started. Globally, we are seeing that women are taking over and rewriting the rules of leadership. From politics to business and boardrooms, women are effectively challenging and changing the narrative that empathy, compassion, and kindness indicates weakness. At Acuity Knowledge Partners, we are proud to have strong and capable women leaders who lead from the front and are role models to professionals. We know that the percentage of women in financial leadership roles is on the rise, but there is still a long way to go to reach gender equity at the top levels. In 2021, the share of women in the most senior roles in financial services industry varied across roles. On the board, women held 21% of the seats, and 19% of C-suite positions were held by women. The share of women CEOs within Fortune's Global 500 list of the financial services industry was only 5%. To know how women are rewriting the rules of leadership, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I have here with me today 3 senior leaders from Acuity Knowledge Partners. Rajul Sood, Managing Director and Head of Lending Services and Co-Chair of Women ERG. I also have Sailaja Devireddy, Senior Director, Head of Financial Marketing Services and Co-Chair for Parents ERG. And I have with me Parul, Dhir, Director, Head of Employee Engagement, CSR and DEI initiatives at Acuity Knowledge Partners. And they are going to talk about how they have scripted the success stories.
Thank you so much, Gyan.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Gyan. Thank you for having us here.
These 3 leaders are pioneers in championing gender diversity, envisioning an inclusive workforce where each employee feels valued and empowered, and above all, ensuring that all the voices are heard at the table. Let's start from your childhood. Growing up, were there moments that you would relate to gender where you would be like, I want to stand up and fight this bias?
Of course, I come from a middle class Indian family. My parents were a little conservative and with respect to staying out late. And I remember my mother would start calling me back at 8 p.m. When I used to play all the gully sports and all the street games that in the night up till like 9 or 10 sometimes. And my brother had all the luxury to stay as long as he wants. And I used to say that why does he get to stay late? But then, somehow I was given the responses of homework and all that. And one day I really kept pushing back and my mother scolded me to come back. And I did not speak with her for almost a week. Not because I was discriminated, but because I felt, she hurt my self-respect. Now she used to tell the story to my son.
I've always grown up being surrounded by women who are very caring, empathetic. There was a lot of emphasis on education that girls should study well. They should also take part in extracurricular activities. Whenever you used to ask why is so much of pressure or why do we have to do this, I think I always used to receive a response of, you have to be independent, you have to be self-reliant and so on. So
there was one thing which stood out for me where I did observe that there was a pressure of getting married and settling down. Started much earlier for women, for girls than, the boys. And I always questioned within my family and I was always checked also on this, where I was always like, why are you like, why should one get married and settle down? Why can't it be like, you settle down and get married?
That's a perfect logical argument. And of course, we're observing that our social construct is evolving in a very positive sense. I think that's a good thing for the overall society. My next question probably would be for Sailaja. Gender equity in financial services sector has made significant progress in the last few years. the industry has rolled out several diversity and inclusion programs to bring women to the workplace in an active manner. But still, we have a long way to go. Your thoughts around that, Sailaja?
I think it's a very fair observation, Gyan. As a society, we have definitely made a lot of progress. I feel today we see increased representation of women in workforce, even at the mid and senior manager levels. There are more leadership opportunities out there for women today, and better acceptance of the fact that there are some unique qualities that women can bring to the boardroom. I see a very sincere effort being made to improve around areas like work-life balance, being more flexible as an organization, and broadly being more accepting of diverse backgrounds. Having said that, I do think there's a lot more work to be done, especially when we talk about areas like pay parity, being more transparent with promotions, having more women at the C-suite level, and in general a more inclusive work environment. And I guess all of us will agree that this is especially true when it comes to developing countries as ours, where we have only 20% of our women in the workforce.
Indeed. And all three of you have grown in this industry and have worked your way up. Looking back, how was gender equity when you started your career?
Going back where I started, which is about 20 years back, I would say, especially in financial services and investment banking, research support, which was new, maintaining gender equity was not easy. Honestly, women would largely prefer teaching roles or roles in HR or training teams or desk-based roles in banking. Being the first knowledge services firm in Gurgaon, we just had 2 females in a team of 30 analysts. What made me stay at Acuity for so long was that I was never discriminated at work. I was given equal work as my peers. I was evaluated equally. Nobody expected me, being a female, to be able to work less hours or will not be able to work long hours. I would stay equally long. But yes, somebody from the team will get up and offer me to drop me back to my PG. But while I was honestly not discriminated at work, but I would say socially our external environment was not very much ready to accept that women could work late hours. Honestly, I was turned out of my paying guest by my landlord because he never believed that women could stay so long in an organization like you. Literally, that was my landlord, and he said, please find another PG for yourself. Those things have still not changed a lot, but the kind of female population that we have now in knowledge services, we have 37% females in our organization, which is how welcoming our overall management and executive committee has been.
Excellent. Sailaja, you have nearly 2 decades of experience as well. How was it when you started versus now?
When I started in my first job as an equity research analyst, I was the only woman in a team of 30 members, and that continued for almost a year before another lady, she was also a chartered accountant before she joined, and I felt very happy at that point of time. I think there were even fewer women at senior levels, and if at all someone was at a very senior level, there was a women employee, it was almost naturally presumed that she was very tough, highly career focused, ambitious, doesn't need to spend time with family, so on and so forth. So I think it was a little bit different kind of, maybe stigma is not the right word, but the perception, if you were a woman and if you were really wanted to develop in your career, I think there was a lot of conflict that you had to go through both at back home, in the society, so on and so forth. And even at workforce and offices, being flexible in terms of work-life balance or, flexible work policies wasn't really a widespread thing, which, as you can imagine, obviously has a disproportionate impact on women.
Absolutely. We all can relate to that. And Parul, from a human resource point of view, how do you relate to this particular question?
Right. So in terms of numbers, definitely, Gyan, we have a lot more women. But I do feel that women, tend to face some sort of bias in terms of salary, in terms of promotions, and in terms of roles, just because of trust issues. And the trust issues are emerging because of a sort of a bias and an assumption that are related to, sometimes the time availability, that don't know whether this person will be able to spend that kind of time for a particular role, which is very demanding. Sometimes it's related to skills, sometimes it's related to aptitude. These are all aspects which come in just because, there are certain assumptions and presumptions that we have about a certain gender. While we as women can face gender inequity, when it is combined with other characteristics which are marginalized, like a black woman would face more inequity than a white woman. But a white woman would face more inequity than a white man. So that's where, the intersectionality plays out.
True, that's so true, Parul. And we all relate to that quite a bit in our careers, and especially in the global roles. As you interact with teams from across the world, we see that sort of coming out very clearly as well. And I want to throw the next question to you again, Parul. Companies today are passionately promoting gender equity, and one of the channels leveraged to build the pipeline of women leadership is mentorship. Do you believe that mentorship plays a role in the development of next generation of women leaders? How do you see this?
Absolutely. I think there is no better way of learning than through the experiences of another person. From a women leadership perspective and a pipeline development perspective from an organization, I think mentorship is just a very powerful and a meaningful way for growth of women leaders as well as leaders all across in terms of, including others. So mentorship is a great way for mentees to widen their horizons and expand their worldview. I'll give an analogy of this child who sits on the shoulders of an adult to be able to look beyond the fence. That for me has been the relationship between a mentee and a mentor. A lot of times things are not clear. A lot of times things are not visible. There are questions that you've not thought about, perspectives that you've not taken, which your mentor, because of being in a senior position, the extensive knowledge that the person has and the kind of experience that the person has gone through, they are able to have that kind of vision, and they are able to guide you better. Apart from just all the growth that you have, I also feel that mentoring helps in networking and getting sponsorship, and increases your visibility and your worldview about how things work.
Actually, we've made mentorship as part of our delivery execution now. Like every team we have working for clients, we have a mentorship model, and every new person joins, he has a mentor immediately who can sort of guide him, make him comfortable in the organization, in the team. And then from there on, the person gets a little bit, more open to learning.
Absolutely, indeed. And I want to continue to stay on the topic of mentorship. In your careers, how did mentorship play a role? Was it significant enough that you acknowledge?
I guess as a woman, there are those few times when it is very difficult to maintain that delicate balance, and you feel that the easiest way out is to just leave everything and go. I think it's those times it's always helped me to speak to my mentors, to speak to some of my seniors who've gone through similar circumstances, and how did they really manage to get their act together, right? So I think that has been very helpful. Equally, I would also want to acknowledge the importance of having mentors outside of workplace. Sometimes we are so very caught up in our workplace scenarios, but for me personally, having friends and mentors outside workplace meant that I could preserve my emotional balance. I learned to appreciate what I was doing and actually enjoy the work that I'm doing.
Fantastic to hear. Parul, I know you are mentoring some of the bright, young, aspiring leaders in our organization, but has mentorship played any role in your career?
So I consider myself as a very solution-oriented person, but a lot of times you just get stuck. It could be work-related or, a personal issue. Because I have multiple mentors, I also have it's like there are certain issues that I go to some mentors for, how I see that, they bring value. And that's why I have multiple mentors. Because I sometimes need a different perspective. So I go to a peer or or somebody who might be a junior as well.
Perfect. Rajul, you manage over 1,000 people, and these 1,000 people and a lot more look up to you. Do you look up to anyone as your mentors? How did it play a part in your career?
No, actually, I had multiple mentors, like Parul and Sailaja said, it really helped in my careers. And I'm extremely grateful for that, because I got to learn from their experiences. I reflected with them on a lot of events in my life, and they always gave me a very different perspective of looking at a particular scenario or a problem. I've fallen a lot of times, but every time I've got up, and I've got that courage only because, I have been speaking to some of my mentors who have given me that positive energy, that confidence that I could stand up and walk again.
Absolutely. This is so great to hear. And to our listeners, if there is one piece that you can take away from this discussion is actually to find a mentor or mentors. Do have that sounding board, do have that one or many trustworthy, unbiased, honest advisors, mentors who can help you become even better. Rajul and Parul, you have been in client-facing role most part of your career. Can you share some of those industry-leading best practices and initiatives that our clients are currently running around diversity and inclusion?
Every organization is actually at a different stage of their D&I journey. Some are ahead, some are still progressing. So right from making the recruitment process more inclusive, to pay equity across global locations, upskilling and sponsorships for females, scholarships for the underrepresented talent. These are some of the initiatives the client organizations are taking. All of this is driven at the top. So there's support coming right from the executive committees, the senior management on improving diversity, which is considered critical for progressive organizations. And if you talk about Acuity as such, right from our CEO and our chief product officer and the business unit heads, including Sailaja here as herself, there's a clear focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Particularly talking about the women initiatives, we've come up with Step Up program, which is welcoming females who have exited workforce because of maternity or because of marriage or something. So we want them to give themselves a second chance. Project Velocity is something we've launched, which is focused on giving mentorship or external training for our upcoming leaders, which is extremely important. Rise Mentorship, which is giving focused, sort of mentorship to some of our female staff. And Mom Project, which is welcoming women after maternity and giving them a smooth transition. So we are collectively doing a lot.
That indeed makes Equity a great place to work and experience the same as well. And great job there by all of you as leaders and promoting and sponsoring some of these initiatives, including our senior leadership. Sailaja, you manage over 100 customers. What is your perspective around this particular topic?
Firms have moved beyond just tokenism, and they are definitely launching some interesting initiatives. To give you an example, one of our large clients, they have come up with a stock pitch workshop. So this is nothing but an event that they conduct to bring together a diverse group of female MBA students in their first year, and then they prepare them for an interview and for a career in the asset management industry. I think this is a great initiative, and it's an excellent way to encourage young women who are trying to step into the financial services space. All in all, I think there is a lot of genuine effort being put to change the DEI scenario at workplace.
The business argument about having a diverse point of view in C-suite, how do you see this as an important ingredient in terms of overall diversity and inclusion?
Progress, transformation, and growth. It's the agenda of every organization today, and that can be actually possible with a diverse C-suite. A diverse C-suite is much more adaptable to change. They're much more progressive.
Definitely, the more diverse the C-suite is, decision making is going to be better informed. Personally, I think women bring in a very different perspective to decision making process. They're often able to look at the long-term human capital impact of business decisions that are made.
From a human resource point of view, how do you see this?
More the diversity, more the perspectives, and better the decision making and the outcomes. Overall, diversity and inclusion has a very positive impact on the culture that you're trying to drive and the kind of employee experience that you're building. With about 30% of our employee strength from the Gen Z, I think inclusion definitely has to be one of our priorities.
Absolutely. All right, so we are reaching to the closing of our discussion, and I want to look into the future. So I ask each of you to take a leap into the future 10 years from today. All right. And I want to ask you, what do you think the conversation around gender equity will be 10 years from now?
I'm actually quite optimistic about the progress in gender equity, in the next 10 years. As the world is progressing more towards technologies, artificial intelligence, ML, ChatGPT, the recent one, the organization will really need the diversity to keep up with their transformation initiatives, and that is going to be driven by a diverse workforce. Practically speaking, there are more role models today than 10 years back, and this is just going to increase. So there's going to be more sponsorship from the top, there's going to be better infrastructure, there's going to be better conversations and better roles and sort of newer opportunities for everyone. So I'm pretty positive about how gender equity will shape up in the next 10 years.
I think predicting the future is always challenging, but I believe 10 years from now, conversations around gender equity will continue to evolve and progress. Most of these conversations, I believe, could be around, they can become more intersectional, as in with a greater focus on experiences of women with diverse backgrounds, including women of color, LGBTQ, and also women with disabilities. I feel we will continue to see greater emphasis on transparency around pay and promotion practices in general.
I'm optimistic, yes. There's a lot of effort. I hope that there are gender agnostic roles at homes and parents are more concerned to build careers for the girl child rather than getting her married. I hope that there are no jobs that are considered unfit for women, and there's a fair representation of women across all jobs across industry. I hope in the next 10 years we don't have to sensitize people on overcoming biases, and people genuinely feel that all genders are equal and this is the norm. And I hope the representation of women reaches 50% mark or more at all levels, right up till the C-suite and board levels.
The future is how you start imagining right now, right? And we start taking action. Thank you so much, Rajul, Sailaja, Parul, for your perspective. Thank you for being the leader that you are. Thank you for inspiring over 5,500 employees at Acuity and outside. You've been tremendous role models. Your perspective, your thoughts are futuristic. I hope for our listeners this was insightful, and they're taking away some great insights that they can use in their personal, professional, and in the social life as well to bring about positive and right changes. Tune into our social media channels for more. And those of you who are looking to pursue a career in financial services, data analytics research, and you are looking up to Acuity Knowledge Partners, we can provide you a global platform. Thank you so much, Rajul, Sailaja, and Parul for the time today, and goodbye to everyone.